City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
No, the 6 train's not running, but we're running. Happy Friday. Happy New York at the center of the polar vortex. I'll get to that in a second. Peter Greenberg here, of course, with our global travel update for this Friday in January. And happy to talk to you about all sorts of things. Let's start with the polar vortex and also let you know where we're coming from. A good place to be, by the way, during a polar vortex. The iconic, legendary, historic Waldorf Astoria recently reopened after 8 years of renovation and restoration. I can tell you for a fact they've done an incredible job. I've been coming to this hotel since my parents took me here when I was about 7 years old. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's get to the weather first because that's going to be affecting so many of you, whether you're in New York or anywhere else. It's a massive winter storm affecting everywhere from the Great Plains states down to the southwest and then all the way to the east. Right now, the meteorologists are telling us we can expect anywhere from 13 to 17 inches of snow starting tomorrow night. You know what that will do? It'll close the airports. And once the airports close, nobody gets in, nobody gets out. And let's be honest, right now, anytime you close an airport for 24 hours, it takes 72 hours to get back on track because planes are out of sequence, crews are out of schedule, and of course, passengers and bags are always misconnected. We'll be monitoring that, of course, and we'll be posting some stuff on the website as well, petergreenberg.com, as the hours and days continue to the actual hit of the snowstorm, which we're expecting here about 6 p.m. tomorrow night. That's Saturday night, New York time. Speaking of the polar vortex, it's interesting to see what happens when we have a snow issue. And a little bit later in the show, I'm going to show you a piece that we just did about what happens when the temperature drops and it gets icy and what airlines have to do for safety, otherwise known as de-icing. Some airports and airlines do it better than others. Some airlines and airports pioneered it. And we're going to show you what really goes on when your plane doesn't take off because they've got to de-ice it first. We'll show you that in a little bit. But first and foremost, let's get to the news. I'll give you some good news to start off with, and that is this is the year of all new routes. We're seeing United, Delta, American basically inaugurating on a number of new routes, but all at the same time. United Airlines having like 14 separate long-haul routes. We're talking Singapore. We're talking, other countries like Mongolia, our 51st state, Greenland. That was actually inaugurated last year, but they're continuing the service. And of course, Delta now going to other places like Malta and Porto in Portugal. What we're seeing is a lot of nonstop flights to secondary or tertiary either countries or cities, which is great because it means if you want to go there, you don't have to connect along the way. These will be all started in the next month to 2 months and then throughout the rest of the summer. And even in the U.S., we're seeing routes that weren't being done before into Wyoming, into Albany, into Halifax up in Nova Scotia. So we'll have a lot of that on our website, petergreenberg.com, with all the airlines and where they're going to be going. That is good news. Also, guess what's starting in about 3 days? Yep, I know you've been waiting for it. Can't wait to get it. Assigned seating on Southwest Airlines. That's right. The old the boarding group deal is over as of Monday. Seats will be priced accordingly. Obviously, seats in the front will have a little more legroom, and there'll be an upsell there if you're sitting in the back. But they've also redesigned the cabins, and to their credit, they've built into the seat back something that some airlines have been doing on some of their newer models. American, for one, has done it. But it's, necessity being the mother of invention. They put in little cradles for either your laptop or your cell phone in the tray table so you can actually be more efficient and not kill yourself just trying to work on the plane in cramped quarters as they already are. Speaking of cramped quarters, this is a fun one. Brave New World of Ozempic travel. That's right. Think about this. They've now realized that so many people are on these GLP-1 drugs that a substantial weight loss for passengers means a substantial savings in fuel costs for airlines. Here's how it works out. A 10% drop in a passenger's weight, if we're talking across the board, can actually live up to about a 2% drop in fuel costs for the airlines. Now let's run the numbers. According to the airlines, that represents a savings of between 580 million and $1 billion a year. Now, will they be passing those costs down to us? Of course not. But if you're losing weight, at the same time they're shrinking seats, you might just be able to fit into it. Speaking of fitting into those seats, let's talk about some serious aspects of airline safety. And that is back in 2018, Congress directed, that's right, they legally directed the FAA to come up with a standardized system of seating, not because of your comfort, but because of safety. The FAA essentially slow walked it and ignored it. They're still ignoring it. While the airlines are putting more and more seats onto the planes, forget comfort now. This creates a big safety issue in the event of a landing or an emergency evacuation where you've got to get out. Lives could be easily lost because people can't get out. If your knees are already against your neck, how are you supposed to get out in the event of an emergency? And then there's the just misrepresentation of reclining airline seats. We shot this video not too long ago on a brand new British Airways Airbus 320. I was flying in the back of the plane. I sat down at my seat, and there was the button you could push to recline, and then I couldn't believe what happened. In fact, I thought it was so ridiculous. I thought it had to just be my seat. The flight attendants were laughing. I said, "Tell me, this is every seat?" "Yep." Let's run the video. Welcome aboard the brand new British Airways A320. Not exactly known for great legroom, as you can see, but they do have a sense of humor. I'm going to show you how the seat reclines. Are you ready? They actually came up with this as a design innovation. Amazing. Brilliant. Watch. Here we go. That's it. Want to see it again? Let's go. Ready? It reclines. That's it. Stupid. Yeah, but they're doing it. And then one airline, WestJet in Canada, decided they were going to announce airline seats that didn't recline at all. I mean, sort of, we'll give them credit for honesty, but basically saying, don't even think about reclining your seat. Well, the public pushback was so bad and so strong that WestJet then reversed their procedure and said, okay, we're not going to do it. But saying you're not going to do it doesn't tell you how much the seat's going to recline to begin with, vis-a-vis what you just saw with British Air. So we'll see how deep those WestJet seats recline. But it speaks to the overriding safety issue that the FAA still has done nothing about coming out with a standardized seating plan for safety on airlines. And I happen to think that's an act of negligence on their part. I'd be glad to talk to anybody at the FAA who wants to come on and talk to me about that. And I'll provide a seat for you. Your knees will be against your neck, and hopefully you'll be able to reach the microphone to talk to me. All right, let's move on. Now, bottom line is, I want to share with you. This happens every year, by the way. The items that the TSA is seizing at security checkpoints at airports. Now, we're not talking about what people packed in their bags that they checked. That's a whole other issue. Talk about people put in their carry-on bags or what they thought was a carry-on bag that would be acceptable by the TSA. Are you ready? Here we go. Chainsaws. Who shows up at the airport and tries to carry on a chainsaw? Apparently, a number of people did. Okay. I mean, that was one. How about red 5-gallon gas tanks filled with gas as a carry-on? All right. So that comes under the idea of stupid and crazy and what were you thinking? But then there were the folks who intentionally tried to sneak something on that shouldn't have been done. That's more serious. Knives inside of walking canes, a switchblade knife hidden in what looked to be an innocent hair comb, a stun gun inside a flashlight, and then, of course, we're talking about real weapons. These are the weapons seized by the TSA on the conveyor belt. How many were seized in 2023 and 2024? An average of about 6,000 per year. Now, if that's not disturbing enough, 96% of the weapons that were seized at those conveyor belts were loaded. But I'm not done yet. What else are the authorities finding? Within 100 to 200 feet of those security checkpoints, in trash cans, they're finding a lot of loaded handguns. Why there? Because uh, people get to the security checkpoint and suddenly realize it's in their bag. They forgot it. They forgot their weapon, that they packed it in their carry-on, and they panic and they throw it out. Now, interesting statistic here, provided by local police, not just TSA. When they check the serial numbers of those guns, 90% of them owned by women, and were loaded. Boy, friendly skies. All right, just thought I'd share that. I'm still on my rampage about codeshare flights. They're not helping anybody. And bottom line, you've got to be careful because they're misleading by definition, especially when you have weather issues like this, where you don't know what terminal you're going to or what airline's actually operating your flight. And when something goes wrong, which of these airlines, and there could be as many as 9 different airlines on one codeshare flight, will take responsibility for the mess up. So remember, anytime you see, or almost anytime you see, a 4-digit flight number on your flight, that means it's a codeshare flight. An American Airlines flight with 4 digits means it can be operated by Royal Jordanian, or British, or Finnair, or Iberia, and the list goes on. And vice versa, a 4-digit flight on Iberia could be operated by any one of those other airlines, including American. And the price differentials are huge in many cases. You need to do your homework, right? It's amazing how much they fluctuate. We ran one of those last week, and that one was completely bizarre. One flight was $470. The other flight was over $10,000 on the same plane for the same seat. Your Honor, I rest my case. That's negligence too. And negligence on you if you don't figure it out. So remember, codeshare flights are not your friends. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, now I talk about the polar vortex coming in. And how many times have you been on a plane in the winter months, no matter what airport you're at, and you push back from the gate and the pilot says, well, listen, before we can take off, we have to be de-iced. Or they de-ice at the gate. Either way, there's a problem because once they de-ice you, you then have to taxi out with a whole long line of other planes to get to your takeoff spot on the runway. And by the time you take off there, you have to be de-iced again. You got to hand it to certain airports around the world. They've come up with an idea of a car wash system. Because right now, most airlines insist on doing de-icing of their own planes. But in certain airports, like in France, the airport does the de-icing and then bills the airlines. It's a much more efficient system because of, first of all, the way they do it and where they do it. In France, what they do is you push back from the gate and you know you have to be de-iced, but you taxi along the taxiway, and right before you get to the turn to go on the runway, you go through like a car wash and you're immediately de-iced. And then the minute you come out, you're ready to take off. There's no waiting. And because of the way the de-icing is set up, they can much more efficiently retain and recycle and keep those toxic fluids so that they don't go into other drains. Much more efficient system. But the guys who pioneered the de-icing, it will not be a surprise to you, were the folks up north, our Canadian neighbors. So take a look at how that works. While we're de-icing Anthony, we're going to try to get that up on the screen. It's going to come. Anthony, is it ready? Yes? He's still being de-iced. Delays, cancellations, stranded passengers. From Wisconsin to Texas, from Atlanta to Colorado. In fact, anywhere the temperature drops below freezing, winter weather can create a nightmare for air travel. But even in the worst conditions, people still need to get to where they want to go. Even in a winter climate as hostile as Canada, where the country's largest airline and flag carrier, Air Canada, has pioneered the science, and yes, sometimes the art, of navigating the challenges of winter. In fact, some say Air Canada was one of the commercial aviation pioneers in the essential science of de-icing. making sure that no plane in its fleet can head for a runway without removing even the lightest coating of frost on aircraft wings. But first, some history and a little basic science about airlift. Originally founded as Trans-Canada Airlines in 1937, the very next year, they were the first airlines to equip their fleet with alcohol de-icing nozzles to keep the windscreen free of ice. They also were the first in Canada to introduce electric de-icing in 1961. De-icing is essential because the smallest bit of snow or ice accumulation on an aircraft can disrupt the aerodynamic airflow that allows for successful lift, with potentially fatal consequences if that lift is interrupted. Historically, there have been numerous serious air accidents linked to icing, like Air Florida Flight 90 in 1981, or in 1985, Aero Air Flight 1285R, 256 fatalities, the deadliest aviation accident in history on Canadian soil. The danger can come when a plane encounters snow or ice on the runway, or when the plane passes through moisture in the air, like in a cloud, that instantly freezes to the body of the plane. As more people started flying after World War I, the need for de-icing solutions grew. Different agencies and companies conducted research in wind tunnels and field experiments, testing ideas like rerouting hot engine exhaust to melt the ice, or modifying the plane's design to prevent ice formation. But the solution that would eventually find long-term success was chemical. In winter operations, de-icing is critical. It's 5 o'clock in the morning here in Montreal, and at the airport, gate 49, Flight 481 is getting ready to go to Toronto. But first, the wings have to be inspected, and then before this plane ever takes off, it pushes back and gets de-iced. The process can involve two stages. First, a de-icing fluid made of mostly ethylene glycol mixed with water is heated to around 150 degrees Fahrenheit and sprayed onto the plane to melt and remove existing ice, frost, and snow. Once the de-icing is completed, timing is even more critical. If the plane doesn't fly within just a few minutes, it's got to come back and get de-iced all over again. The time between de-icing and takeoff is called holdover time, and the worse the precipitation conditions, the shorter the holdover time. And if that window needs to be extended, the plane can go through a second treatment stage, anti-icing. The anti-icing fluid is thicker, made of roughly equal parts glycol and water. Once it's applied, the mixture's lower freezing point inhibits new snow or ice from accumulating, and the plane can now proceed to take off. And in case you think the need for de-icing is just a rare occurrence, last year Air Canada de-iced more than 26,000 planes. In Montreal, the turnaround times for a 737 are very short. Just 1 hour after this plane first came in from Edmonton, it's pushing back for Calgary in sub-freezing temperatures, wind, but no ice on the wings. And they're not just removing the ice and snow from the planes. The runways have to stay clear, and they attack it the moment it touches the ground. It's all part of the overall winter air operations for Air Canada.
In the winters, it can be a challenge. I mean, we can have anything from snow to freezing rain to frigid cold temperatures. It really puts a strain on making the operation run.
Neil Wisniewski is the Director of System Operations Control for Air Canada. Located in Brampton, outside of Toronto, Systems Operation Control, or SOC, is essentially Air Canada. And that's just a preview of the piece that we did on de-icing, an appropriate day to talk about it, as those guys are going to be very, very busy up and down the Northeast Corridor starting in about 12 hours. Anyway, moving right on. It's not stopping me. I'll be speaking tomorrow and Sunday at the Travel and Adventure Show here at the Javits Center. Just dress warmly. Of course, if you miss me here in New York, these are all the other dates. We'll be in Chicago, in Fort Lauderdale, in Long Beach, in Santa Clara, in Dallas, and in Denver. So we will see you there. If we don't see you tomorrow, just dress warmly. Neither rain nor sleet nor snow nor gloom of night will stop me from speaking at the Javits Center tomorrow and Sunday. All right. Every week I I tease you with some vintage airline commercials from the past. That's going to come up in a second. But first, let's say hello to some folks. Hello from Michelle, who says, "Oh, I plan to go to the travel show tomorrow, but I'm skipping due to the very cold weather." Okay, I get it. And Linda saying, hi from Naples, Florida, was going to go to New York tomorrow for the weekend at the travel show. Yep, she had to cancel due to the weather. I get it. But if you're in New York, you have no excuse. Come see me. All right, Jim and Harriet saying hi from Richmond, Virginia. Be safe during the pending storm. Thank you, sir. Okay, Paul's saying, I'm in New York City instead of Virginia, preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. Well, if you're in New York City, come see me tomorrow at the Javits Center. Scott saying hi from Chicago. -4 here. I love this. Feels like -24, which poses the question, what's the coldest place you've ever been to? I can give you 3. 1, of course, was the Antarctic. 2 was where I was about 3 or 4 weeks ago in Harbin in China, where the temperature was -22. That wasn't the wind chill. That was the temperature. And speaking of that, I went to school in Madison, Wisconsin. I remember it was so cold. I'm not making this up. And some of you in the Midwest may remember this, that I had to attach to the car's radiator a heater that I would literally, it was an electrical heater that you plug into an extension cord when you came home every night. Because if you didn't heat the water in the radiator, you lose your engine. It's that cold. And I remember one day, oh boy, do I remember that day. It was -28, and I had to get to class. I somehow made it. I don't know how. Okay. Judy's saying hi from Scottsdale, demonstrably warmer than where we are right here. Melody's saying hi from Miami, finally sunny again. Stop boasting. Sue's saying hi from Bellingham, Washington. It was great too. Oh, yeah, that's right, Sue. I saw you in Seattle at the Travel and Adventure Show. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed it. Laura's saying good afternoon from New York City. All right. Colleen's saying I'm on an 8:25 a.m. flight from San Francisco to Palm Springs next Wednesday for a legal conference. Should I switch my flight to the first flight out on Wednesday? Why would you do that? I mean, Palm Springs, I don't think it's ever snowed there, at least during the day. No, keep your flight. You'll be fine. The north-south flights on the West Coast are not going to be affected. It's the flights connecting to the north-south from the East Coast that'll be affected. But hopefully by Wednesday, they'll be back on track. Because remember, for every 24 hours you're closed, it takes about 72 to get back. They're going to be closed if this weather pattern holds up by Sunday night. So go 72 hours after that. Wednesday should be okay. That's a good question. I wonder how much pitch we are losing on standard seats on Southwest. It will be a lot. Yeah, it's basic physics. If you're expanding your front of the plane seats in terms of space, you've got to decrease the space in the back, not just the space between the base of the seat the seat in front of you to your knees, but the recline of the person in front of you. So the only good thing about that is Southwest doesn't really have meal flights, so you're not going to spill a lot of stuff on you. But if you order a drink, you might want to hold it in your hand. Either way, the space between seats is going to be decreased. It's the laws of physics. All right, Gilda's saying hi from sunny Florida. Sandy's saying greetings from Charlotte, waiting for the ice storm. See, we all are. It's one of those crazy things. Gina's saying hi from a soon-to-be snowy Tulsa. Snowing even in Tulsa. By the way, cancellations today, as of an hour ago, Kennedy only had like 24 cancellations. That's nominal. It's not much. Dallas, already by an hour ago, 524 cancellations. So you can see how widespread this storm is. All right, Ginger's saying hi from North Carolina. Mosin has an interesting question. What's the impact of the train accident in Spain on the immediate train travel in and around the region? Well, actually, to tell you the truth, and it is a very sad incident. We saw that collision and how many people died. Train crews are relatively good in the event of disasters like this, of getting the old rolling stock off the tracks, doing some immediate repairs on the tracks if they're needed, and they'll be down about 24 to 48 hours. So those trains should be running by today or tomorrow. But again, a terrible, fatal accident is sad news indeed. Okay, Joyce saying I'm flying from Philly to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, June 7th to June 14th. It seems that most of the fares on airline fares are $500 or more, even on Frontier. Can I suggest, what is she saying here? Oh, can I suggest an airline where the cost is under those costs? Well, here's the thing, Joy. You're booking way in advance, and the algorithms haven't been set up yet to fully project demand and then set pricing. So if you want to book that fare, and I'm not going to tell you not to, but if you want to, try Google Flights, because they'll automatically monitor that fare. And should it go down appreciably, you can then refund that fare to a credit, then apply that credit to the lower fare, and then keep the residual credit. Okay? That will be my advice. Jeff says, I'll be back in Prague in June looking for an excursion outside the city one day within an hour or two. Any nearby gem? You know what, Jeff? Write me, peter@petergreenberg.com. We'll get you that answer. We have a pretty good file on that. And by the way, for those of you who have never been to Prague, I highly recommend it. Imagine one of the only cities in that part of the world that was not destroyed by bombing in World War II. It's just the way it was. Those cobblestone streets are just the way they were. The only thing different, for those of you who've been to Prague, and I laugh about this because my wife will not let me walk unescorted on the streets of Prague because, and I don't think I'm exaggerating much, about every 60 feet is another candy store. Go figure. Okay. Okay. Sandy says we're flying from Charlotte to Malaga, Spain via Munich mid-April. We only have an hour and 20-minute connection. Since it's a Schengen country, we have to go through immigration when we land. It's a one-ticket flight on Lufthansa. I am really nervous that we will miss our flight. So what you're saying is you're holding a Lufthansa flight from Charlotte to Munich and on to Malaga through Munich on the same airline, correct? Are you checking bags? A 1 hour and 20-minute connection, even with the famously efficient Germans, is pushing it. Although Munich is a whole lot better airport to me than Frankfurt. Whoever designed the Frankfurt airport had a drug problem. I mean, stairs, long ramps. You're running at the Frankfurt airport, no matter how you look at it. The Munich airport. Are you taking like an afternoon, late afternoon, or early evening flight, by the way, from Charlotte to Munich? That's good because they usually land about 10 to 30 minutes early. That doesn't hurt. But you're still at that margin where I'm not totally comfortable with that connect time. I'm just saying. Okay. Now, you also asked the question, what is Lufthansa's responsibility? Well, it is their responsibility. This is where we're not dealing with a code-share flight. You're on one single airline, on one single ticket, where your bags are going to airline. They're going to connect. So the question really that you have to find out is, how many flights a day are there from Munich to Malaga? My guess would be less than 2. There might be 2. You're on one of them. But if there's only one, then you have to overnight. Oh, wait a second. You answered that question. And you need to rebook on the 2:35 flight. There's the second flight. Okay, you'll be fine. Okay? Just make sure that when you get to that 10:35 flight, if you make it, you show your barcoded bag tags to the gate agent and say, can you please confirm that these bags have been scanned and loaded? So that when you get to Malaga, you're not waiting 8 hours, you know that your bags are there. And if your bags are not there, you're not waiting 8 hours waiting for the bags. But either way you look at it, it is Lufthansa's responsibility. All right. Ginger's saying she's going on a National Geographic cruise in June. It terminates in Iceland. Do I need an ETIAS? No, you don't. Iceland's not an EU country. How about that? All right. By the way, we just posted a link on the full piece on airplane de-icing if you want to see the whole story. Camilla is saying hi from Los Angeles. Alyssa's saying, greetings from Palm Harbor, Florida. A lot warmer you are than we are. Our good friend Eddie's back in New York for the cold and the snow. Yep, it's gonna be bad out there, Eddie. Eddie's out in Bayshore, Long Island, and Iceland. Chris is saying, I'm a travel agent from Canada and love content. Okay, you got it. We have a hello from Morocco. You got it too. Do I have specific projections for domestic flight prices? Will they increase or decrease in 2026? Could you be any more general? You have to look at it market by market. Here's what we're looking at. Remember what we talked about last week and like 3 weeks before that as well, about the huge drop-off in foreign arrivals in the United States? That means if people are not coming here to international gateway cities in the US, they may not also be flying within the US. There may be excess capacity. If that excess capacity is sustained, the airlines can adjust, in many cases by adjusting frequency down or substituting aircraft. But in areas where they can't, that's where you're going to see some airfare sales. So that's your answer. Right now, the summer is not shaping up to be full. And right now, you're going to see those fare sales start to happen. I don't see any likelihood, because things take a while to kind of ramp back up, but I don't see any likelihood in the next 3 months for the number of people coming to the United States to appreciably increase. Yes, you'll have some seasonal traffic and visiting friends and relatives, but the huge swarm of summer travelers from Europe may not happen this year based on all of their fear about visa requirements, bonds, even the thought of having to supply 5 years of your social media history. It's keeping a lot of people away. Even if those rules never go into effect, the mere mention of them is creating fear, just so we're on the same page there. Okay, I'll see some of you at the Fort Lauderdale Travel and Adventure Show. Okay, thank you, Sue, for those nice words. And a couple of folks waiting out in Dallas for the storm. Greetings from Denver, from Evelyn. Hello, okay, Michelle saying, yes, I am not booking my June trip to Denver yet. Would you say March or April would be a better time to book for June? Yeah, between 50 to 60 days out. Yes, ma'am. Okay. What don't you know about, or what do you know about abolishing dual citizenship? The Trump administration has made a proposal. In fact, there's a current bill on the floor of the US Senate to make it illegal for anybody to have a dual citizenship, meaning 2 passports. I don't know the reasoning behind it, although it may be part of the administration's America First program. Either way, I think it's ill-conceived. I think it's misconceived as well, because there are a lot of people, for all sorts of reasons, who carry 2 passports, including my wife. She was born and raised in Turkey. She married an American, and she has a Turkish and an American passport. And conversely, later this year, I'm getting a Turkish passport. Why wouldn't I want one, right? It gives you much more freedom as an EU person. So I don't know what the real reason behind that legislation is. Economically, I think it's a disaster. It restricts travel. It doesn't improve it or increase it. So we'll be monitoring that bill in the Senate to see if it ever comes out of committee and goes to a vote. And again, then it has to go to the House. And I don't see a lot of support for it right now, and I hope that stays the same. Okay, Joyce says, do you need a real ID if you have a passport if you're flying in the States? No, I carry my U.S. passport, and that is my real ID when I'm flying within the U.S. If you're a member of Global Entry, you have your Global Entry card, that also qualifies as a real ID. Now, for those of you who are watching me today who don't have a real ID and don't have a passport or Global Entry card, starting February 1, the TSA is going to impose a $45 fee to process you at security checkpoints simply because you don't have the real ID. You have time, go to your local DMV, get that little gold star on your license, you'll be set. Okay? Okay. I mentioned some of the flight apps you want, like Flight Radar 24, Flight Aware, and of course, my new favorite, Flighty. Paul is telling us that the Flight Aware app will show historic on-time arrivals for a particular flight, which will give you an idea of your risk for further connections. It's not a guarantee, but you know what? If a flight is late 96% of the time, and some flights are, that may give you an idea maybe not to book it, okay? There was a flight, TWA had it. It went from Athens to New York and then on to LA. And the flight from New York to LA was called Flight 896. Everybody at TWA within that organization always called it, not particularly affectionately, late 96, because it was late 96% of the time. They would hold that flight to go to LA for their late arriving flight from Athens, so people would make their connections. All right. Okay. Ginger's saying that Iceland says you do need an ETIS in late 2026. I disagree. Right now, we'll double check that. But right now, ETIS, they keep telling us it's coming into play. Guess what? No news. They keep kicking the can down the road. I met with representatives from the European Union last week in Washington, D.C. to ask them that question. They didn't know, but they said their initial information is at late July, early August. Who knows? As soon as we know, we'll let you know. Okay. Now, I promised you my favorite airline commercial, but before I run it, let me give you some history. And the history is the host of this commercial, I was surprised to see it, but for those of us old enough to remember NBC Nightly News, the hosts were David Brinkley and Chet Huntley, and it was known as the Huntley-Brinkley Report on NBC. And all of a sudden, one day in the early 70s, I turn on TV, and this is what I see with Chet Huntley.
The great passenger aircraft of today's jet age. Most airlines buy the same planes, but American is one airline that doesn't let well enough alone. Their 747 luxury liner. 60 seats were removed, and it became the first plane to have a coach lounge the size of a living room. Passengers immediately liked it. Competitors immediately copied it. American's new 707B luxury jet. Veteran passengers will do a double take. The seats have been changed, the walls, the ceiling. It looks brighter and wider, and there's more space for everybody. An American's DC-10 luxury liner is a plane American helped design from scratch. Its takeoffs are quieter and virtually smokeless. It has the comfort features of a 747, but can land in smaller airports. So planes that have the same numbers aren't necessarily the same planes. Only one airline has the luxury fleet. Chet Huntley for American Airlines.
Chet Huntley for American Airlines. Well, of course, American flew that 747 domestically for a very short period of time. Some of you may even remember they had in the back of the plane a piano lounge. I was on the very first flight that they used on that for that lounge. And who did they have performing? Frank Sinatra Jr. and his orchestra. It was a big publicity stunt. How long did that piano lounge last? Well, the lounge lasted a lot longer than the piano did, because the minute that plane got airborne, some idiotic 12-year-old was playing chopsticks all the way from LA to New York. And short of killing the kid, they had to kill the piano. So much for space on the plane. But those are the days when they actually promised luxury, or their definition of such. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Speaking of luxury and hygiene, how about that for a combination? How many of you drink water when you fly? I do. You want to continue to hydrate yourself. Everybody wants to do that. You need to do that because of dehydration and the humidity, et cetera. But if you see the flight attendant coming down the aisle with a tray of water, should you drink that water? And the answer is no, don't go near it, because you have to watch out about the airline holding tanks. That's right, the airline holding tanks. Who inspects those? Who cleans those? Who disinfects those? What's the bacteria count, the E. coli count in those holding tanks? It's not pretty. The EPA just came out with their study of U.S. airlines. Only one airline came up with a pretty decent score of the E. coli count and the bacteria count being low in the holding tanks. That airline was Delta. But then it dropped off all the way down. Delta got a score of 5. Pretty good. The rest of the airlines, not so good. I mean, you're dealing with JetBlue and United, all below 2 or 2.5. American was the lowest at 1.7. So even if you order coffee on the plane or tea, and it's a hot drink, which is boiled water, you ever notice those drinks taste a little metallic and stuff? I stay away from any water that comes out of the holding tank. And what you do, if you see the flight attendant coming down the aisle with a tray of water, make sure you actually see her open the bottle of water and you hear the snap of the cap. Because when they run out of bottled water on the plane, what do? They fill the glasses with the water from the tank. It defeats the whole purpose. So either BYO, or make sure they're going to give you a small bottle of water that you get to open, or that you actually see them, you witness them opening and cracking that cap. One more word about the lavatories. That's coming from the holding tanks as well. And if you're going to wash your hands, make sure it's the hottest water you can to give yourself at least a fighting chance of a lower bacteria count. And that's assuming you get both hands into the sink at the same time because they've shrunk the bathroom so much. Just thought I'd say. Okay, let's keep going here. Hold on a second. A couple of questions that you guys asked during the week that I'll address. Carolyn says, I've been a diamond on Delta for years, and over the past year, I found that upgrades are few and far between. I'm always number 1 for the upgrade, and then all of a sudden, I'm number 4, then number 6, and then forget it. I don't think status is working anymore, which means I don't have to be loyal to Delta anymore. I'll just look for the best flights at the best fares. Carolyn, you are not alone. If everybody has status, nobody has status. And you're talking to somebody who thinks he has a lot of status. It doesn't matter. I showed you a picture last week when we did the global travel update on a flight I was on from Charlotte to LaGuardia on an Airbus 319, of which there were only 8 seats up front. And when I got to the gate, of course, there's the board above the counter that shows you how many people are standby for even a coach seat, how many people are standing by for a first class upgrade. And on that particular flight, all those other 8 seats were full, but there were still 61 people standing by for that non-existent seat. And I was one of them. It's hopeless. What makes it even more hopeless, and I mentioned this last week, but since you brought it up, I'll mention it again. While I was waiting there, I got an email from American Airlines saying that I could upgrade to first class for $40. And they were sending that email to everybody on the flight, regardless of their status. So here's my 3-word question. What's the point? So I think you're doing the right thing. But again, we've been inclined, we've been steered, we've been conditioned to do what? Chase miles to do what? Have an elusive perk that by definition doesn't exist or hardly ever exists. All right. Sylvie says, well, the point is when there's a canceled flight or delayed, I can jump from plane to plane easily, get customer service dedicated to take my calls without waiting forever. Oh, this is about status. I've never done the line for rebooking in airports. I have priority on an available flight. But I agree year after year the service on airline status degrades and might not be worth saving. Well, you're right. Look, the other day when American Airlines played real havoc with my wife's flight, I had that double secret elite status phone number to call, and I was told the wait line was 43 minutes. So what's the point? See, we should make, you know what? Maybe we should change the name of our broadcast from Global Travel Update to What's the Point? No, seriously, status is not what it used to be, and make your decisions accordingly. Don't be deluded. Okay, because if you're deluded, then you become delusional, you see. All right, Mabel says, I'm gold for life as a million miler on United. I rarely get upgraded anymore. Here we go again. But I still enjoy the other perks. Economy plus seats, that means they defer the operation with a little bit more leg room and 2 checked bags. I love how the airlines make a perk something we used to get anyway, right? A little silly, but anyway, I hear your point. Okay. So Dicky says, for me as a Delta frequent flyer, the only status that's worth it is a diamond medallion. Below this level, it doesn't mean the S word. I agree. Pat says, status still means something, but certainly not what it used to be. United starting selling upgrades underneath their most loyal customers. Exactly what I just said about American. Delta was selling them for as low as $26 to everybody. Makes no sense. Well, it makes sense to Delta if they want to generate revenue. And by the way, they just issued their quarterly earnings at Delta, one of the best years in their history, and all of their profit came from what? The front of the cabin and selling upgrades. That tells you everything you need to know. Okay, enough of the upgrades. Let's go to the photo of the week. Here it comes. There it is. Terry Bielowski. And Terry writes, this photo was taken in the vast expanse of Wadi Rum. I've been there so many times. We're talking Jordan, near the border with Saudi Arabia. The terrain is recognizable from many movies, Dune, Star Wars, The Martian, and Aladdin. You forgot one. Come on. Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's extraordinary. It is extraordinary. And now the only thing I would suggest for Terry is if you'd gotten up earlier in the morning or stayed a little bit later in the afternoon, that picture would even be more spectacular. But then again, It's our photo of the week. And if you think you've got a photo that qualifies and you want to be up there next to Terry, you know what to do. Just send it to photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree, it goes right up there next to Terry. Thank you, Terry, for sending in that photo. Let's scroll here. And of course, another housekeeping note, polar vortex or not, I'll be at the Javits Center here in New York City tomorrow and on Sunday. I'll be speaking tomorrow about 12:30 in the afternoon, on Sunday about 2:30 in the afternoon. Please come and see me. Always happy to see you and talk with you and answer your questions. We will have fun notwithstanding the weather, okay? Or weather notwithstanding, either way. All right, one more note. Our new mayor here in New York City has done something that's long overdue. We want to applaud that. He made an announcement yesterday. They're banning hotels from the city from charging consumers hidden junk fees. Now, we know what a hidden junk fee is, right? It's any fee that's not disclosed when you make your reservation, like those dreaded resort fees, or a hospitality fee, or an energy surcharge fee, or even a parking fee. Everything that is not disclosed when you're making your reservation on the same page, font size and location as the display of the room rate you're going to be paying, right? What's the point of a $60 to $80 a night resort fee if you don't disclose it? You're hosing everybody, and it's sticker shock. So effective February 21st, that's when it goes into effect. 1 month from basically when they announced it. No hotel can disclose any charges, mandatory or otherwise, that are not displayed in the same location, the same same typeface and font, that they disclose the actual cost of the room itself, so at least you know what you're getting into. By the way, the Biden administration tried doing that with the Federal Trade Commission last year in 2024, and the Trump administration threw it out. But on the local level now, they're doing it. And by the way, how much money could that save consumers here in New York for understanding what they don't have to pay up front? The city estimates $46 million this year alone. So congratulations to the mayor on that. Let's hope other mayors follow suit, because on the federal level, we're not seeing any movement whatsoever from either the Department of Transportation on the airline level or the Federal Trade Commission on the hotel level. All right, so dress warmly. We'll monitor the weather situation. Obviously, it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's not fun, but we have to adjust. Have a great weekend, everybody, no matter where you are. Stay warm. Thank you to Anthony for showing everything, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next week from another location, which is really going to surprise you if I get out of New York next week. Global travel update coming from about 9,000 miles away. We'll talk to you next week, everybody. Have a great rest of the week.
This is a 207th Street bound A express train. The next stop is 168th Street.
And we're at the closing